I'm calling the next speaker, Raymond Ho.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge those MPs, government ministers, the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister who attended so many Chinese New Year celebrations over the last 4 weeks. The celebrations will culminate tomorrow when the Lantern Festival hosted by the Asian New Zealand Foundation will be opened officially at Albert Park in Auckland. Now back to this bill, we can actually borrow some wisdom from these ethnic celebrations. For instance, there is a so-called gold trumpet rule, which is relevant to this bill, I believe. The ancient Chinese saying has it that the ruling party, ruler or emperor, etc., you name it, while exercising some sympathy or democracy in modern language, asked those who wish to present opposing or dissenting views to blow their gold trumpet. But the problem is that the ruling party had only made available the gold trumpet to its supporters. So whenever the ruling party asked the opposition to view their dissenting views or opposing views to blow the gold trumpet, it was total silence. Applying that rule to this bill, the ruling party is obviously national, and those who do get hold of the gold trumpet, I guess, are probably John Banks and Peter Downe. Now, Justice Minister Judith Collins has refused to abolish the coattails clauses and refused to stop deals being stitched up over cups of tea. I guess the only opinions or views she would have sought would be those from John Banks and Peter Downe. For all others, the opposition parties, the general public, the Independent Electoral Commission, their views are simply ignored. ACT as a party gained only 3.65% of the vote in 2008, but won 5 seats on the back of the victory in Epsom. And Mr. John Banks won the seat again, but only with the help of the cup of tea. That was the simple and biggest concern people had about the MMP system. Now, Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to introduce some small yet mostly sensible changes to the Electoral Act, but the bigger issue is what's not in this bill, and that's the much-needed changes to our MMP electoral system. Before the last election, John Key did say that if people voted to keep MMP, the system would be reviewed by the Independent Electoral Commission. Now, New Zealanders did vote to keep MMP system, and it was reviewed by the Independent Electoral Commission, and recommendations had been presented to us and to the general public, and those recommendations included abolishing the coattails clause and reducing the party vote threshold to 4%. But Justice Minister Judith Collins has refused to introduce these amendments to MMP in time for this year's general election. As my colleague, Ms. Liz Galloway, explained earlier in his earlier contributions, Judith Collins did say that such kind of changes would require a cross-party consensus, and she did try to seek for the cross-party consensus, but stopped. So it was a silence applying the gold trumpet rule. New Zealanders need to have confidence in the integrity of the electoral system, and the Labour believes these changes need to be made in time for this year's general election. People are sick of deals being stitched up over cups of tea. That moment between John Key and John Banks in Epsom hurt Kiwis' confidence in MMP, and it's time to restore that trust. Labour has already had a bill drawn to amend MMP, abolishing the coat tails clause and reducing the party vote threshold to 4%, as explained by my colleague, Mr. Liz Galloway, in his earlier contributions. It's very important for the government to keep faith with the people and follow through on the democratic choices they have made, because the people made the choice, the people voted to keep MMP system, and the system being reviewed by the Independent Electoral Commission. Recommendations had been presented to us, to the general public, but this government has refused to restore that confidence. Mr. Speaker.
You must call, yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Joanne Hayes.